Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Cura Chat. Today, I'm excited to introduce Jesus. Jesus is a graduate from San Jose State University, where he got his bachelor's degrees in Chicana and Chicano studies with a minor in computer science. He is passionate about bringing technology access to communities and teaching people how to use it to its full potential. Jesus, we're really excited to learn more about you today, and added your LinkedIn in the chat so people can connect. I'll also add it at the very end. But to start us off, Jesus, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got into the nonprofits space, specifically with Street Code as a operations manager?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey everyone. So a bit about my journey. I actually have always been just all about community. I've been always helping out. So when it came to choosing a college, I wanted to choose a college that was rooted in community, that was known for community. So San Jose State was the one that called me. So an alum from San Jose State, Spartan proud, which is great. But I wasn't sure really what I wanted to do going into college. So the easiest route was, how do I make the most amount of money? And that's software engineering. It was going into tech. So that's what I applied for. For some reason went in undeclared, still not sure why, but was working towards becoming a software engineer. Did all the engineering classes I needed to do. But as I was going through trying to complete my GEs, my advisor told me like, "Hey, you can knock out three GEs by taking just two classes." And that class was Mexican American Studies, the intro course for that major. So I was like, sure, like I want to learn more about my culture, learn more about my background. So ended up doing it, fell in love with the class. The instructor there really resonated with me and was able to connect. So as I started applying into the majors, I decided to switch over to Chicano Studies. But I still want to do tech, so I kept my minor as computer science. I will say I'm actually the very first graduate of Chicano Studies at San Jose State University. The major was just created when I was there. So I'm the very first graduate, but I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. How do I combine this Chicano Studies and computer science together? So through college, I took another program called Braven, which connects you with mentors. And my mentor was at LinkedIn and connected me over with someone that they happen to know at Street Code Academy, my current company. They knew a volunteer there. I couldn't volunteer at the time because of my classes, but they eventually reached out to me about a potential internship. And I was like, sure, why not? I don't have anything planned for the summer. I was just working at the school at San Jose State, but I was like, I need something for the summer. So I applied. I got in. I was one of the teaching fellows there and started teaching our web design class and our intro to code class. Really loved the work they were doing. I connected with the students that we were teaching. And I just wanted to continue the work somehow. My internship was coming to an end, and I just shot my shot and I was like, hey, do you still need help afterwards? And luckily, the CEO really needed an executive assistant and loved the work I was doing and kept me on. And from there, I just kept moving on throughout, like moving up through street code. So I went from an intern to an executive assistant. I was on the fundraising team for a bit, and then they needed someone in IT because pandemic came in 2020. Everyone needed to move on to Zoom, whether you liked it or not. Everyone went online, and I just happened to know how to work the back end of Zoom and stayed on as one of the system administrators, and then slowly worked my way up now as the operations manager, where I oversee all our tech, all our facilities. I do our HR. I also do, what else do I do? Finance as well. Everything an operations person does at a nonprofit. So I've been loving it ever since, growing my skill set, and yeah, that's my journey to where I am now. Almost 7 years now at Street Code at a nonprofit.
Jesus, thank you for walking us through your journey.
Yeah.
I really want to highlight something that you said through that journey. You said that you pivoted, you switched your major. And I think that's something super important that I think we need to talk about. Did you feel any pressure when making that change? And like, how did you work through that coming from a CS major to a different major?
So that was tough. It was. I remember that specific semester that I made that change. I did apply to get into the software engineering major. At the time, the semester before to apply to SJSU's software engineering was 2.7, I believe, was the GPA requirements. I was like, good, I'm good. I'm gonna get in. And then the semester I was applying, they upped it to, I think it was like a 3.8. So it was like over a full point in GPA. And I was like, I don't have a 3.8. It's not even worth applying because that's the minimum requirement. So I remember I had a month to figure out what my major was going to be. I was scrambling. Chicano Studies wasn't a major yet, so it wasn't an option at the beginning when I was looking. I started talking to my advisor on what I could do, started talking to friends, and just seeing what I could do. And someone just recommended me to go talk to the department chair of Chicano Studies just to see. I went to go talk to him, and he was like, "Yeah, we're actually trying to figure out how to start the major. We're in the process of doing it. You applying right now would actually pressure SJSE to start it right now." So with my help, and there were two other people applying that same summer, we were able to start the major a little bit earlier than they were anticipating, and we were able to jump right in. But that month of not being able to get into software engineering to getting into CCS was the craziest month I've experienced. Because if I didn't choose a major by that summer, I wasn't gonna be able to enroll the following semester at SJSU until I got into a major. So it was crazy. Luckily, I had all the professors at CCS when I was taking the classes that supported me and pushed me to apply into the major.
Well, I want to go a little bit more into your journey and a little bit more into what Street Code Academy does. Can you just talk a little bit about what Street Code Academy does, and kind of like a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, so Street Code Academy is a nonprofit that's based out of East Palo Alto. Generally, what we offer is free tech classes to the community, or free tech resources. So our main offering is classes. If you're looking to get into coding, into engineering, into design, into entrepreneurship, we offer all these free classes to our community. Everything is free. If we need to buy materials for engineering classes, we buy the materials that you can take home. If there's any software that we need, like we'll provide the software as well. It's all 100% for free here at Street Code. Some of the other offerings that we have, one of the programs that I personally run is called the Level Up program. This was started back in 2020 when the pandemic hit and everyone needed a device to get online. We had devices because as a tech nonprofit, we need devices to offer our classes. We're like, no one's coming in person. Why don't we just give our community the laptops that we have and just to keep at home? So we started this Level Up program where we started a 1 year rental of our laptop program where you rent it for a year. If you don't need it, you return it, it goes to someone else, or if you need it, we renew your contract. And that's been going for 6 years now for the Level Up program. We're still handing out devices. We have nonprofits that reach out to us that they know folks that need a laptop, and we're able to just give out laptops as we get them. So that's one of the proudest programs that I've been able to like help out with here at Street Code. But it's all about tech resources that we give out to anyone, anywhere. Has always been a blast. And some of the other stuff I do just on the side as well. I'm also on the board of the College of Social Science at SJSU as one of their advisory board members. It's the very first advisory board member for the College of Social Science. I'm super excited. I'm also on the board of another nonprofit that props up leaders in the Bay Area here. And I was formerly on a board for another nonprofit called the Internet Society, where we just make sure that everyone has access to the internet around the world. So as you can see, I'm always in nonprofits. I'm always giving back in some way. So it's just a passion of mine.
Jesus, I'm so impressed by, what stood out to me was when you said you finished your internship, and then you said, okay, do you need help with anything else?
Hmm.
That approach and the fact that you did a lot of different things at Street Code, fundraising. You started, as an exec assistant, fundraising, all the way through operations. Can you tell us a little bit more about the mindset that you had to jump right in and say, okay, what can I do? A and B, to move around and try all these different things. And what have you learned from that, from doing that?
Yeah. So for me, I always love solving problems. It's been something I do. Puzzles are one of my favorite things. Is trying to figure out how the pieces fit. So especially working in nonprofit, like things are always shifting. So I was initially in the fundraising team as the executive assistant because they just needed someone to help out with managing our CEO's calendar because he's meeting with donors and trying to piece together a CEO's calendar is crazy. By the way, it's you got to find these little pockets in calendar. It's crazy, but I loved it because it was a puzzle. I got to figure out who's the best person to meet with, what time, where. So that I was just feeling the need there that I saw the CEO was stressed. I can offer this as like, I don't have to come into the office. I can do this remotely because I just need to manage his calendar. The other thing was when the pandemic hit, I started moving more into the tech and operations because we just needed to figure out how to handle Zoom and how to get our students to still take advantage of these free classes. So I was like, hey, there's a problem that came up. I can fix it. Let me help out if I can. So luckily, our nonprofit is very open to anyone jumping in to like help out anywhere within the organization.
You have this incredible ease when you talk about it. You know, you launched the Mexican studies program at San Jose State. You know, you essentially created all of these pathways, and you do it with such ease. And I really want to unpack that because in our communities sometimes we think everything should be really hard, right? And should be really difficult. And so what is it about that? What is it about you that looked for sort of the, like the path of least resistance when you were approaching these really difficult decisions?
It's a great question. I think for me, it's just being able to see those holes in like things that are going on.
Mhm.
I think that's why I've stayed in operations the longest out of all the teams here at my
The most
organization.
problems.
Yes, there's endless problems when you're in
Endless
operations.
problems. Yeah.
The buck always stops with operations.
Mhm.
So I think that's what I've seen is just trying to fix those holes that are going on.
It seems like you also have this like service mindset,
Yeah,
right? Of serving others with the gifts that you have been given, of making other people's lives easier is with the things that you're really good at. And I think at our essence, a lot of us should do that with our careers, but oftentimes we don't have the confidence or the practice or the models
yeah,
to be able to move through that. So I really appreciate you sharing that level of detail of your story.
absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, you talked a little about finding gaps or finding that hole. And my question to you being in tech is, where do you think the biggest gap right now is when it comes to tech access?
I think it's right now, and we can literally say right now because of AI, like one thing is just getting access to tech is one thing, which is why like we launched our level up program to get access to computers. Um, Devices are just expensive, even just to get a basic computer that you need to take online classes or just do your work. Like a good one starts now at like 700, $800. Like that's a lot for a working family that like, and it's one device for like a family of five. You you probably need more than one device at home. So I think that's one of the hardest things, just to get access to tech. The other thing is just not knowing how to use the tech that you already have in hand, and literally in hand, a smartphone. So that's one thing that we focus here at Street Code is how do we just teach you to use the tech that you currently have, if that's your phone, how to access your email, how to use WhatsApp, how to apply for jobs just on your phone with the devices you have. So we're just trying to help out our community with the tools that they currently have and being able to provide those additional resources. And the newest thing as well right now is AI. We're doing a lot of AI literacy this year, just to inform people what it is, how you can use it, how you can start a business with it, the environmental impacts of it. Are companies doing it correctly? How can we help companies do it correctly? It's a big fight to fight, because tech giants just like to move forward. Their motto is break things and keep moving forward. And who's left to fix those things are the nonprofits and our own community members. So we're trying to get ahead of that and start early with our AI literacy and training for our community.
On the topic of AI, what do you think about AI? Should it be empowering for these communities or should it be more intimidating? Because we hear all the time, oh, AI is going to take our jobs, AI is going to take jobs. What are your thoughts on that?
I can answer it personally and I can answer it professionally. Professionally, I think AI is great. It's helping out. It's for folks that are working. It does make some workloads easier. Um, in some cases, it's not. It's just another tool. It's the way you use it. Personally, I do think it's hurting the community a lot. At the school district that we're helping out here at Ravenswood, and I'm sure a ton of other school districts, seeing the literacy rates going down because folks are just focused on AI. Um, AI writing your papers, AI summarizing a book that you forgot to read. So that's one thing that we're trying to tackle too is how do we still help our community with literacy skills, with math skills, while using AI as a separate tool that can help out with that. So still seeing it as a tool like a calculator, you still need to learn the math skills, the fundamentals of it, but you can use a calculator for those quick things. And that's kind of how we want to see AI. It's just another tool that you can pull out and use when you need it in a pinch. But literacy is one of the biggest things I think for me personally, along with the environmental impact of AI as well.
Um, what do you think about this is a super interesting topic and question that is even getting brought up in my classes. All my teachers have been telling me, hey, these are the effects that the AI is doing, right? There is less you're using less of your brain. You're not really critical thinking. I guess my question to you is what responsibilities do schools have in teaching AI literacy? And or do they? And are nonprofits gonna have to come in and maybe fill in that gap, like kind of how Street Code Academy is doing?
Yeah, I do think schools have. We were talking about this because I'm in a cohort with some other nonprofits that are thinking about AI. We're talking about how we can help school districts and their teachers and students learn more about AI. So it's still something we're tackling. We're actually working with the school district here to help them out with their own AI policy. But it's AI is going to be here, so we want to make sure that the teachers are informed on how to use it, how you can adapt your curriculum to include AI. We're thinking especially like English class because students are going to use AI to write their papers or summarize things. How can we help English teachers come up with new curriculum to adapt for students that are going to use AI, whether we like it or not? So I think it's something that school districts need to lean into and how to incorporate AI in their curriculum because it's a tool that's already out there. And nonprofits, I think I'm always thinking back to like it takes a village to raise everyone. So it's nonprofits, it's community leaders, it's the school districts, all of us coming together to make sure we're still educating the next generation. And just the recent survey, I remember someone had said that this next generation is the literacy and math skills are it's the first time that they're going down generation to generation. So that was really interesting to see. So it's something that we all have to contribute with, whether we have kids, whether you're in a school district and go to their school board meetings to see what's going on in the school district, voting in different council members in the school district, and just making sure that they're taking accountability in their own schools.
I want to pivot a little bit into maybe more the nonprofit topics. My question to you is, what is some advice that you would give to someone early in their career or coming right out of college is what should they do to maybe get into that nonprofit sector or to just expose themselves to different types of nonprofits?
Yeah, so the easiest way would be to volunteer for nonprofits. We're always looking for volunteers. So if you want to volunteer, feel free to apply with us. But volunteering, find a nonprofit that's next to you, see what they're doing, if it's a mission that aligns with you. Or maybe it's not something you're super interested in, but they need a volunteer just to see how the nonprofit world works. Every nonprofit operates a little bit differently, but it's a way to just get a gauge of how nonprofits work. Another thing that I encourage a lot of college students is to just randomly email a nonprofit and be like, do you have any internship opportunities? Over the summer, over the winter, we had someone randomly email us back in, I think it was October. It's like, hey, I have an opportunity. My school can pay me. Can I intern for you for the winter? And I was like, absolutely, we need the help. And especially if they're getting paid through their own college, that's even better. So apply for work study to see if you can do a nonprofit internship over the summer, over the winter. We're always looking for additional help. So volunteering, randomly emailing a nonprofit have if they have internships, and just being out in community. You can always see what events nonprofits are also doing. Just to see, go participate in their events. We also need numbers to show donors that our events are working. So just participate. We always have free food. It's always fun to be in community. So it's another way to learn how the nonprofit works as well.
Jesus, I like what you said about that. Just email, just reach out. What stands out to me about that is nonprofits, a lot of smaller or companies, small businesses, nonprofits in general. everyone's trying to do so much, right? And sometimes you don't know what you need until somebody reaches out and says, "Hey, I'm free. I can help with something."
Yeah.
And so I just love how scrappy that feels to me, right? Just go for it. Like, what's the
Yeah.
worst that can happen? They say, no, not right now. Or guess what? Actually, we're figuring something out. Check back with us in a month.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's everything to gain and nothing to lose by doing
Mhm.
that. And so I really appreciate you saying that because I think we forget. We're so
Yeah.
busy looking at listings or going to corporate sites or nonprofit sites looking for the thing to be posted. But the reality, just having a conversation and reaching out might end up you might end up with an opportunity. So thank you for saying that.
Absolutely, yes. And as well, they might say like, "Hey, we need this volunteers for this event coming up." Like,
Mhm.
it's yeah, it never hurts to send an email out to a nonprofit.
Yeah, and so many times, like Sylvia said, especially right now, unemployment rates are at an all-time high, very difficult for this generation in college to navigate the transition into the workplace. And it's like, from a system wide, we think that there's like one path, right? It's like apply through LinkedIn, apply through this, apply to these top 3 firms
Hmm.
or whatever. But the value of being able to connect deeper directly with relationships where there's need, it doesn't mean you have to stay in that space or even in that organization forever, right?
Hmm.
But it's like a really great way to be able to gain experience.
Absolutely, and I can add to with gaining experience. Excuse me. A lot of nonprofits too, you can like mix and mingle with other volunteers who are coming from
Mhm.
industry. You're networking within this own
Yeah.
giving back to the community. You can also ask the nonprofit, are there any partners that you have that are looking for like that have open roles too?
Mhm.
We partner with a lot of tech companies, and sometimes they let us know, hey, we're hiring. It's not on our listing, but if you know anyone that wants to be a software engineer, like let us know. And it's a referral from a partner from this tech company, so that always
That's
helps
such a
out.
good tip. Yep, you're so right because there's the ecosystem of the
Mhm.
funders and the companies, and there's the ecosystem of the board members that you might connect and meet with at the event.
Mhm.
And just having a shared mission already makes you so much more valuable as a potential candidate inside those spaces. That's really helpful advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like how you touched on that, Jesus. Like, it's not just about volunteering, or it's not just giving back to the community. You can get many different types of experiences and opportunities through that. And I think that's maybe a misconception that some people have.
Mhm.
On that topic is, what is the biggest myth that people have or people believe about working in nonprofits?
Biggest myth I think is I think one of the things I always heard is that every day feels like, or what's the term? Do what you love, and it's never work. Something similar to that. It's still work, and we're still grinding through. We still got to meet deadlines. We still got to do reports. It can be draining. Like nonprofit work is rewarding because you're helping out the community, but it's also draining because of how much love and resources you're putting in of yourself as well. I luckily work in an organization that takes care of us. We're allowed to take time off whenever we need it. I've never been told no for a day off, that like a request that I've been put in. I've actually been told like you need to take a break because you've been working too much. I still remember that the first time my boss told me that, it's like, I'm asking you to take a day off because you already put in over 40 hours this week.
Mhm.
So I do remember that. So it's the bit that like you think it's always going to be a good day working in a nonprofit because you're helping out. But just know, like it's still a job. You still got to take care of yourself, and just try not to burn out, because burnout in nonprofits is a huge thing as well.
Thank you for talking a little bit about that. On the topic of burnout, you talk about how you have many different hats, and as an operations manager, what is a way that what is your way of work-life balance? Right. I know you talked about your manager has told you to take days off, but what are some other ways that people can have work-life balances in nonprofits?
I think it's setting the expectation if you can early on with your team. We're pretty strict on our like messaging of like if it's after hours you don't have to respond. We try our best to like schedule send things. But for me, it's just going home and relaxing. I have an amazing now wife who supports me after work and everything. So it's great to have someone that you can always go back to and hang out with, if that's with friends, if that's just a hobby that you love doing after work. It's always a great way to like unwind after work. But I think the most important is setting those boundaries with your work early on. And if they don't respect your boundaries, maybe it's not the organization for you, because they're just going to keep pushing you and pushing you until you burn out. So just making sure you set that early on.
Adrian, I appreciate you bringing that up as a topic because what came up for me when you earlier you shared you're on a few boards and then you're doing this nonprofit work, you're out in the community, you're doing all this because your heart is there, very heart centric work. You love it, but the reality is we're human beings at the end of the day. And thank you for this question, Adrian, because it's so important to just name it. And how do we each for ourselves figure out what that looks like because we always want to give so much and it's hard to stop sometimes, right? And so that's such a great reminder. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And so it's right now we're in the middle mark of this Cure Chat, and I kind of want to open up for any questions that any other guests have. So if you guys do have any questions, you can unmute and ask the question.
Hi, everybody. My name is Guadalupe. I had a question for Jesus. I'm kind of curious as graduated from San Jose State and now went back to San Jose State now to be a mentor and continue. How do you, I guess from going from student to mentor, has there been, and now being on the other side, right? Any tips of how you navigated, I guess, now using, right, like all your experiences to become now that person that students can look up to you?
Yeah, it took a while to get used to it. I had imposter syndrome because I was like, I'm just scraping by. It like learning everything. It took a bit to like fully understand that like I have this experience now. I think even with all the work that I do, a lot of folks are always surprised in how much I know, and especially around tech. I always love saying I'm a jack of all trades. Like I'm not a specialist in anything, but if you need help with anything, I probably know it. So I think it took a while for me to for that to click in my head, to offer that advice to other folks. Like I've been doing a lot more chats like this to make sure folks know. I used to be a student listening in on these, and it's crazy now to be on the other side. Just knowing that like that imposter syndrome eventually goes away. You start seeing yourself as that speaker and eventually become that speaker. So now being at San Jose State as an advisory board member, working alongside my professors who taught me not even, oh, it's about to be 7 years now since I was their student is a crazy thing. I'm still getting used to it. And I'm sure as I get more experience, it becomes easier and easier, but just knowing that the imposter syndrome eventually goes away and just having confidence in yourself to keep going forward.
Alejandro, I think you might have had a question. If you want to ask your question. If not, I could go ahead and jump back in.
Oh, I can do in the end.
Okay, sounds good. My next question to you, Jesus, is you talked about volunteering or reaching out and just sending an email to nonprofits. What is one way students can stand out during their work at their nonprofits to hopefully maybe get a full-time opportunity?
Yeah, so I feel like it will depend on the nonprofit you're working with. But I remember what my boss told me. What stood out with me was my connection I had with the community. So the work didn't come first. It was this student that I was working with. They had such good things to talk about me when I was working with them that the nonprofit was like, absolutely, we're hiring Jesus. Like that was, and my nonprofit made that a point of like, you got to work with the kids. Like the kids were part of the interview, basically. They were my interviewers. So that's one thing that you can do to stand out is connecting with the community that the nonprofit is actually working with, because then they know you have that passion behind you, and that hopefully you can come on board as a full-time or part-time employee at the nonprofit. But another thing is, especially being a nonprofit, is being able to have that flexibility of wearing multiple hats. If they see that you have a skill that you're not super sharp in, but they're like, hey, you know how to do emails. Like, we don't have anyone that can write our emails and do our marketing. Can you take it on? And that's a skill that you can grow from there. As long as you're open to learning these things, most nonprofits will support you to gain those skills and give you that, hopefully that training, or at least the tools to get training. So my two tips are connect with the community and be open and flexible to any new roles within the nonprofit too.
And what I'm also hearing is your kind of natural gifts, right? So there's some naturalness about how you're connecting with the community, your approach, and so leaning into what you do well, right? I feel like there's something about that, the connecting of the joy or what it brings out in you,
Yeah.
and how others receive it, right? How others may witness that and say, wow, Jesus is amazing with the community. And for you, you may not think about it too much because you just love it so much, or you're really great at connecting with others. And so it's such a great reminder, what are your gifts? What do you care about? And then how might you lean into those things, and how does that translate into what you're doing in the workplace or nonprofit, wherever you are in the spaces that you're helping or giving, being of service. So that's so great, because I feel like there was a natural connection to what you're doing, and I'm sure that really stood out in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Having that deep level of authenticity in all of your pursuits, Jesus, is very impressive and inspiring and refreshing, because there's so much that tells us, there's so much noise that comes at us to do this is where there's more money, this is where there's more opportunity, this is where you're going to have the greatest impact. So I'm thinking about the title of this and the impact as a flex, right? And I'm really thinking about this as that connection to impact, and that reducing the imposter syndrome comes as an evolution and a confidence, right? Confidence in doing what you're naturally good at. That practice gives you more confidence, right? And that honesty gives it more authenticity that people can relate to. And so it's really impressive, because directionally it's counterintuitive to a lot of the noise on career advice that people have been given.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate the openness you've maintained throughout your journey. So from intern to executive assistant along the way, it sounds like you were just, okay, let's see what else I can do, or how can I help? And I feel like that almost, back to using Jen's word, it's counterintuitive, because we're told we need to focus on one thing, be a specialist in one area, get really good at it. And sometimes that creates stress. And so how cool it almost feels like you leaned back and you said, okay, bring it on. What else could I do? Right? How can I help? And sure. And just pivoting along the way. And there's so much ease in the way you describe that. And I really appreciate you sharing that and the way you did too, because that's what really resonated with me is, wow, you just kind of went with it. And I think there's a lot to be said for that, especially in the market the way it is now, and people trying to find their space or the next role or how they can help. That's really cool. And I feel like we need to hear that more, right? So what advice do you give others for kind of taking on that mindset? How do you lean back and stay open to what's next?
I think for me, it's having that curiosity. I've always been curious about different things. Um, I mean, I didn't know about AI coming out of college. Like, it's a new thing for all of us, and now I'm leading some of our AI curriculum here, like teaching other people on it, because I was just curious. I was like, how can we teach about robotics here? I have no experience in robotics, but I know our community needs it. I like it, and I'm curious about it. Just staying curious about things. If you're, especially flexibility and curiosity, I think at nonprofits are going to be your best friends. Flexibility, because the nonprofit might just ask you, or your job might just ask you, like, hey, can you do this? Like, and just being curious about it. It's like, let me try it out and see, like, it's something I like. There was a lot of things I tried here at Street Code I just didn't like. Fundraising was one of them. I did not like fundraising. I was flexible with it because they needed someone for it. I was curious enough to see how fundraising was, and I said it wasn't for me.
Mhm.
Uh, so I still remember my first fundraising meeting where they were throwing out numbers like $250,000 from one individual, and I was like, that's big numbers for me. I'm like, that's crazy. But I was curious and stayed on, and just it wasn't for me. And luckily, the nonprofit had more flexibility to keep me moving up throughout the organization. But yeah, the curiosity and the flexibility, I think, are two main things you need. Always stay curious, always be learning, I think, is another huge thing. I may have graduated now 6 years ago, but I'm still learning and trying to stay up with everything that's going on.
Yeah, we just we're about to release a white paper on human skills and AI and the emergence of AI and career preparedness. And one of the number one skills from the World Economic Forum is learning agility, right? Like when I hear you talk, that's what I'm hearing, because I think as we move forward, it's less about this career ladder that we were sold, right? That you start here, you're at a job for 50 years, you get a 10% increase every year, and then you retire, right? Like that model is dead. And so with this new model, I think there's a lot to learn from your approach, because that flexibility and curiosity seem to be the ingredients for learning agility.
Hmm.
Jesus, I really like how you pointed out that you tried fundraising and you didn't like it. I think that's super valuable. I think realizing that you don't like something is actually very valuable. And having that curious mindset, you were able to figure that out. And so then you're able to double down on your strengths. I really like to highlight that. Can you just talk a little bit about, you talked a little bit about what to do. So now can you talk a little bit about some mistakes maybe some young professionals make in the nonprofit sector, or maybe some mistakes that interns have made, specifically at Street Code?
Yeah. So let's see some mistakes I've made. I've made a ton of mistakes going through my journey here at Street Code. Um, I'm trying to think some specific ones. I know I've accidentally deleted files as a mistake, and I thought I was going to get fired because it was a huge thing. I know I've like mistakes in teaching has been one thing. But I think the biggest mistake early on for me was not asking enough questions of my leadership as well. I think even as you're an early employee or just starting off as a nonprofit, it's always good to push your founding team or your CEO or your leaders on the mission as well, because you want to make sure that they're still driven with the original mission that the nonprofit is found on. So I wish I would have asked more early on. I'm still fully aligned with the mission here, but as a curious, like still in college, getting out of college person, like I wish I would have pushed more and just found out more about like where we're going, what's our 10-year plan, different things like that. So just learning more. I feel like I would have learned a lot more and grown more at Street Code if I asked that early on as well. Because then I would have gotten advice from my leadership on how they got into the leadership positions in their end for the nonprofit, and just connected with them more. For our interns, I'm trying to remember some of our interns that we had. I do lead our intern cohort at Street Code. I've been leading it for the past 4 years, going to lead it again this next summer, which is always funny because I was an intern myself, now leading interns here at the nonprofit. But I think the number one mistake you can make as an intern at a nonprofit is, again, just not asking questions. One of our interview questions that we do, or I should say activity, we do two fun activities when we interview interns. One is kind of like a more skills based. We ask you to do something when you're sharing your screen, use a new software, with no guidance. It's like a brand new software, jump in, create this thing. A lot of interns stay silent during the whole activity. We give minimal detail. We're like, this is the software, create this, is what we give. Our goal is they ask what they would call stupid questions. It's like, can you repeat or can you spell it out? Like, we want you to ask that because we don't want you to make a mistake late in a project and it's not what we asked for. So asking those questions as you're going along. The other one that we love to do, we actually, if for those that are in computer science, you might know about the peanut butter and jelly sandwich method. It's can you teach me how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? And I'm going to take your instructions literally. If you say to scoop out peanut butter, I'm going to stick my hand in the peanut butter jar and scoop out peanut butter because the instructions were unclear. We like to see what mistakes our interns do early on, just with that simple thing. I have actually scooped out peanut butter with my bare hands because someone just said to scoop it out. But these are things that we want to see interns like. We do want to see you make mistakes because that's a learning opportunity as well. But also ask questions if you're scared of making those mistakes too.
Jesus, something we covered on an earlier podcast too, which I think is so funny. It's like the first 90 days is a blank slate for asking all the questions that you want. I made the same mistake when I first started at a C-suite role at a startup. I thought by not asking too many questions that I would try to blend in, that I would try not to. But what a mistake that was, right? Because the first 90 days, you can really ask anything
Yep.
and you are forgiven, right? You don't have to. After that, it's like, well, why didn't you ask this earlier? So I'm really glad you brought that up as a mistake for you and a reminder to the crowd.
Yeah.
It's just whenever we connected earlier on, you talked about helping out nonprofits on the side with any IT work. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you do?
Yeah. So I have a lot of skills. I know a little bit about everything when it comes to tech. I think a lot of my friends and other partners can attest to. So I also have a side business that I called Always Here to Help because that was my motto at Street Code. Anytime someone needed help, I'm like, I always ended off with Always Here to Help. Like anytime I helped out a partner, a coworker. So I was like, why not start a side business, like a tech consultancy business called Always Here to Help? Funny enough, if you do the acronym AHTH, that sounds like auth, like authenticate. So it's also like a techie word. So I worked out. So that's my side business. I help out nonprofits, small businesses with any IT work that they need. This branched off from another program I do here at Street Code called the Community Technology Program. This is where nonprofits like Latina Coalition or other nonprofits here in East Palo Alto where if they need tech items like iPads, computers, a speaker system, wireless microphones, a camera, we have it at Street Code. I was like, why not loan it out to these nonprofits that need it? We don't need it currently. It's sitting in our storage gathering dust. Why not let these other nonprofits use the equipment? So luckily I got the go ahead to do that and have been doing that for about 2 years of just offering our tech items to nonprofits. And that kind of pushed me to do the side business of Street Code can provide the equipment and we can just provide it, or you can also hire me on the side and I can also produce or set up the equipment for you. I've helped out a number of nonprofits with their websites, with figuring out what tech they need to get, setting up computers, setting up Google Administrator for the nonprofit. And I started seeing these problems when I was working at Street Code with a lot of our partners, saying like that no one has an IT person. Like a nonprofit having an IT person is very rare. If you go through all the rosters on all the nonprofits you see, the best you'll see is maybe like a web developer because they got to do the website. If anything, if not, it's the operations person probably doing it. I see Alejandro is agreeing there. So I started offering this. I do it at super reduced rate because a lot of our partners have been quoted $100 an hour for an IT person just to set up an easy thing, and they have to do a minimum of $1,000. I was like, that's too much. I can do this in 2 hours. Pay me $50. Give me some coffee or something. So I just offer it because I love doing it. I'm always learning. Every nonprofit has their own unique set of problems that I love to solve with IT. So one, I'm learning, and two, I get paid just enough to get a cup of coffee or something.
That is so cool. Thank you for sharing that because there's a lot to be said for using your gifts or what you enjoy doing and creating opportunity, solving problems. Can you tell us what advice would you have for anyone thinking about, I want to try something else or a side hustle, or how can someone get started? What advice would you give?
Yeah, I would say start with your existing network. I think is the best thing. Your friends are going to take a chance on you. Sometimes cold calling doesn't help. Like I've sent out a couple emails to random nonprofits that are like, "We're good now for now." Like I don't have a connection with them. How can they trust me currently? But starting with your close network of friends, for me, it was the partners that we had at Street Code Academy. I was like, "Hey, like you always ask this question, would you like be interested in like hiring on, or can I help you out with this, starting out for free? I know that's not financially like viable for a lot of folks, but just starting out with your close network of asking around, I think that's the best advice I can give to just get started. Especially experimenting. I did one of my newest projects that I did. I had no experience in doing this, but I knew how, like the general idea of how to do it. I had someone reach out saying they had old wedding photos of a friend and that they wanted to turn into like a mini movie. So bring the old photos to life using AI. So I created from 5 old wedding photos. I created about a 30-second clip of them reliving their wedding day, basically, for these folks that had their wedding back in 1950s. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew where I can research, where to start, and luckily they believed enough in me to be able to like trust me with this project. And that was just having that close network of friends that trust you.
Thank you. What a beautiful story.
Yeah, thank you.
Everything is figure outable, I like to
Yeah,
say, and I feel like you really emulate that.
yeah. It's my favorite thing is there's always a solution to a problem. It just might take a little bit longer to figure it out, but there's always a solution.
Jesus, thank you so much. You dropped so much knowledge. You do a lot of great work. We're in the last 10 minutes, so I want to open it up again for any final questions that our guests have. And then we'll be going into rapid fire questions.
I had a question that was more complex than the thing. And by the way, I gotta say, listening to you is like reading Give and Take from Adam Grant all over again, and seeing a full true giver. So happy to see you, and yeah, wow, hats off to the way that you have built your career on just giving, and I think that's a beautiful way to do it because you're going a lot. And I was just curious because I am in that again. I'm a very curious guy, and lately I've been obsessed with the latest AI trends. Open club bots and trying to build it, and learning what is a terminal. Like I need to tell him, like, spoon feed me everything you ask me. But as I do it, I haven't felt more FOMO in my life because I feel like this is like the party with the chairs and the music, and it's gonna stop at some point, and
Hmm.
everybody's gonna be out of a chair. So how do you balance that necessity of you need to keep the students sharp and make them use their brains, but at the same time, if you're not doing AI, you're gonna be out of a chair. So how do you think that can be approached? Because I think it's overwhelming. Like I talk to my friends with kids, I'm just grateful I don't have any because I wouldn't know what to say. Like do all the AI you can.
Yeah. So that's one thing we're starting to experiment with as well. One of our newest things that we're doing here at Street Code is combining AI with things that you normally wouldn't think you would combine AI with. We just launched a series called the Tech Tourney, where we're combining basketball and AI. Sports and AI is a huge thing. Whether if Even if you don't think it's a thing, it's a huge thing. There's huge companies that are investing, sports companies that are investing a ton of money in AI because everyone wants those like instant highlight reels, and AI can really get that. There was talks about using AI to scrub video live for a broadcaster, like during a soccer game, be like, "Wow, that's his like third hat trick this season," and they can pull that up instantly with the dates. So combining AI for students with things that they love already. So if that's maybe like, let's say like Formula One cars, like are they using AI, and how can we teach that so that they can combine the passion that they have with this new technology of AI? So that's one thing that we're experimenting with, and just even another area we teach a lot of seniors just how to use their own devices as well. Just teaching them that AI can even just help them out as well. One of the fun things that we've done is like design a slideshow for them to share with their families about like a trip that they recently made. So it's like use AI to create a slideshow for them because they're probably not going to sit behind a computer and create a new slide, do a photo, and everything. So we're like, let's make it easy for these folks that probably don't have a computer at home, but that still want to engage with their families and share what's going on. It's always still just combining that passion with the passion that their students have with the AI tools that are out.
Thank you, Jesus. We have about 10 minutes left, so I'll be moving into rapid fire questions. Just don't overthink this. This is first instinct, right? So first question that I have for you is, what is your favorite tech project you've worked on?
Favorite tech project I worked on. I'm currently working on it right now. It's has to do with AI. I have a mini PC that can run AI, and we're trying to run our own local model to teach kids how to code it to learn different basketball moves. So we're gonna put a camera next to a basketball court, and the kids are actually gonna learn how to program it to like set it up themselves. That way they're learning that basketball. Like I got to learn how to be better at basketball by telling this AI to like teach me how to do it. So we're having a basketball coach along with a software engineer to come and bring it together. So it's an active project I'm currently working on, which is a lot of fun.
That's super interesting. My next question is, what is one tech tool you can't live without?
One tech tool right now, my laptop. I would say I run everything off my laptop. I have my work laptop. I have a personal laptop. I can't live without them because then I can't do my job and I can't work on the fun projects that I love doing because I love everything tech.
Yeah. Earlier, you talked about that you love to do puzzles. What has been one of your favorite puzzles or the most challenging puzzle you've done in the past?
There was one from Lego. It was like the Lego heads. It's almost all yellow, so that was what made it really hard. And trying to like put everything together. I think it was like a 1,000 piece puzzle. Took me about I think 2 weeks to do it together. And it was like during winter break when I had time to do it. So that was the hardest one so far.
And then what's one place on your bucket list you still want to visit?
Right now, it's Japan. It's still on my bucket list to go. I want to see all the cool tech inventions that they have, that they do, but also just I love all the food that they have in Japan is another thing. I just want to do a food tour around Japan.
And then the final question that I have for you is, what is your favorite book of all time?
You said book?
Book, yeah.
Right now, I would say Fahrenheit 451. I'm blanking on his name. I'm reading the audiobook and I'm blanking on his name. But yeah, Fahrenheit 451.
Okay, thank you. Jesus, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you everyone for joining us. Please make sure to connect with Jesus on LinkedIn. I dropped it in the chat. And then, yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, Jesus.
Thanks so much, Jesus. Really enjoyed this one. Thank you.
Likewise,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you joining.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Hi, everyone. Have a good night.